So we were talking about the custom lookup components. We have also developed the lookup component. So what I did is basically I used the other CSS from our SLDS as we talked about. And then I just use this one where it is showing me that which keyword I'm searching for. And then I've got the account name and the account object itself. So we were able to develop the things up to here. Now what we have to do is this was our HTML component. And this is our HTML CSS file. We have done, we have used the CSS, we have used the HTML from our SLDS website. So now what should be happening here? What should happen whenever I'm typing here anything that should basically get stored somewhere, and then we should send this SFDC or whatever the keyword we are typing to Salesforce Apex class. And that Apex class will filter based on the account name, and those account name will display here. Okay, so this is our HTML, this input. If you don't find, you could just find for input tag, and this is our input. So what we will do is we'll say, okay, on change, we are going to have an event handler on change, and we will say handle change. As this is a custom event, we are going to define the event here, handle changed, and we will prevent the default event. And to store whatever the user is typing here in this input, we will create one parameter and we will name it as search text. You could name it as anything. And within the handle change event method, what we will say is, we will say, okay, store whatever you are getting from the user as an input into the variable called search text. So to store, the syntax is this dot search text equal to event dot target dot value. And we will get this value in this variable. Next thing that we need to do is we need to pass the variable. We need to pass we need to pass whatever the information we have got in this variable to the Apex class, so that Apex class can make the filter. They can then apply the filter, and we can get the data returned back to the Lightning Web Component. So let's create a method here. We will say handle change records, and this will have a method simple, nothing else. Okay, no such method or nothing. And we are going to call this method here, and we will pass one parameter, and that the parameter we are going to name it as search keyword. What value we wanted to pass is, we wanted to pass this dot search keyword, so this dot search text, the value that we have here. Okay, and this method we will call it within our handle change method. From our handle change method, we will say, okay, whenever the user is typing anything, first of all, prevent the default behavior, then store whatever the user has typed into the variable search text, and call this method, that is handle change records, that is going to call the Apex class and do the needful that we have. Now, as our Apex class, we are passing this parameter, we are saying search text. So our Apex class must need to accept the parameter called search keyword. Okay, so let's first deploy this Apex class and then deploy our JavaScript code as well. So we have not applied any filter into the SQL query. Now what we are going to do is, this handle fetch account that is being called from the connected callback, we are going to keep as it is for now, but we will make the changes later on. We are going to put some static text here so that we can make sure that we are within handle change records method, so that we get to know that our on change method is actually being invoked or not. And one thing that you would also see here, or let me first deploy this, test the functionality, and then we'll talk about the later part. So we are here in the browser. We have this console log opened, the inspect element we have in the console. And if I search for something called SFDC, Nothing is happening. You see the console is not even coming at all. Nothing is happening. We're not able to do anything. So we really need to see if this method is getting called or not. So we have got this input which says on change as handle change, that is type equal to text. That should be okay. We've got handle change which says we have got event. We said event dot prevent default. Then we've got event dot target dot value. Okay. Let's add some console because it seems to be correct to me. On change and deploy this. Or there could also be a reason that the code was not deployed and we refreshed it. That could also be one of the reason, but that's fine. If we say sfdc, on change is not working at all. Oh, it worked. It worked. So okay, I got it. Why it's not working. Okay. So it's on change, it's not working. We really have to use some other event. That what is that event? I'll let you know first. But if you see here, we are getting our method is getting called and we are getting the records. For now, there is no filter applied in the Apex class. That's why we are not able to see here. Okay. So what we really have to do is first we need to apply this filter. Now, how you are going to apply this filter? So let's open. This is again a Google Chrome plugin, that is Salesforce Inspector Reloaded. You can use this plugin to make the SOQL query. So that is what I'm doing. So we are going to write the query here. Select ID name from account. And then we'll run the report. So you would see here, I've got so many records, more than 270, like I've got 270 records. Now, what filter we wanted to put here is we wanted to put where name. And if I put something like this, where if I say name equal to this, right? Name equal to, let's say, sfdc. It's not there is equal sign missing. If we run this, it gives us that account with the exact name called sfdc. But if we get rid of this filter and if we run export and filter the result based on sfdc, you would see there are 3 record with the keyword sfdc. So instead of using equal sign here, okay, instead of saying where name equal to, what we will do is we'll say where name like, within single quotes we are going to put parenthesis, and here we are going to put the keyword. And if I run this, you would see there are 3 records where sfdc is present in the name of account. Okay, it could be anywhere, it could be anywhere. Okay, so that is basically we have sfdc panthers, like there are 3 accounts and there is one sfdc. So that is what we have to prepare here. So what we will do is, whenever you need to apply the like keyword, so just go ahead and create a like param variable. And what you want something like this, right? And this has to be dynamic. So what you will do is we'll use we will put percentage sign within the single quotes, and then we will have the plus signs, and within the plus sign, between the plus sign, we will use our variable, and we will say like whatever the keyword we have. And then here what we will do is we'll say where annual revenue is not equal to null, and we are also going to say and name like, and we're going to put colon and whatever parameter. So now I'm going to break this query into multiple lines. So we are saying name like whatever like param we have, and deploy this. So what this time it is doing is, it is basically, okay, there is some error. We have got limit, or maybe, okay. Yeah, basically there was some error previously. This should be like this: name colon like whatever. We should not put equal or something. We should say like colon whatever the variable that we have, and we should be able to deploy it without any error. Now we have got this filter is there in our Apex class, and the filter is working fine. If we get back here into our Salesforce and deploy this, we would see that there is now there is nothing coming because we have applied the filter. Okay, now filter is there, no records are coming. We are only seeing that okay, Salesforce is coming up over here. So what we have to do is we have to, if we type here, let's say sfdc, nothing comes up here, right? And if I put my cursor anywhere, that change record is working, and we see that there are 0 records coming up. We really don't see any records coming up here because there is no annual revenue for those 3 records. So let's get rid of this filter, this annual revenue, because you will really only need filter for name. Okay, and after getting rid of this annual revenue, we are going to deploy the code and refresh it. And now let's type sfdc. If you type sfdc and put cursor anywhere, we will see that there are 4 accounts coming up here and getting displayed into the UI. But we want whenever we type something and then the record should come up. So for that, what you have to do is you need to say, okay, on change is there. Take this method name, okay, and you will say we are going to use something called on key up. Okay, on key up means that you are typing something. On key down, that means you are deleting something. So we are going to use both the event so that it works for both. Whenever you're typing something and whenever you are deleting, like you are hitting the back button, delete button. And now you will see that it is going to work whenever you're typing, and it is going to display the details. Let's say sfdc. Okay, it's really not taking the values here, but it is working and displaying the 10 records. Whatever the 10 record it gets, it is basically giving us. Okay, so on key up, it doesn't display, it doesn't holds any value here. Okay, we've got on key up, on change, on key down. So let's see if we are getting, if we get rid of this on key down and deploy this and see if this is working for us at all or not. So it's working fine. So basically we really don't need on key down. On key up is going to work for us. Okay. And now if you see we have got SF, you would see that we have got multiple accounts containing SF in the name. Now there is one thing that you might notice, not one, there are 2 things. One is this is clearly says it's Salesforce, but however it should say SF because this is what we are searching for. And maybe if I say India, there are 3 records coming up. It should say India, not as Salesforce. So for that, we really need to find out where exactly the Salesforce is being utilized in our HTML file. Not utilized, where it is being used. So we find it that here this is hard coded. So what we have to do is, as we know, whatever the user is typing is getting stored into the variable called search text. So we will use search text here so that it will display the search text. Okay. Now let's deploy this. Okay, now it's done. Let's refresh this. So, but if you see, you still see, right? If I search for India or something, you could see the content is coming up here as soon as I type, that is really good. But if I really don't have anything, like not now, if I really don't have anything in the starting, it is still showing me this pop-up, this search icon and this hover. It should not display, because that is how the standard lookup looks like, and that is how we really want to. We really don't want, like if I type sfdc, then only this particular thing comes up, right? So what we will do is we'll put a filter here. This is our li responsible for displaying this record. So in this li, what we will do is we'll add one condition. We'll say LWC if only so, only display this li whenever there is any value in this search text variable. If not, don't display it. Okay, that is the one thing that we have. This is the next that we wanted to achieve as per our lookup component. Now you see, okay, this is still coming up. There is something coming if you see here, right? But if I type sfdc, now we see that, okay, this is coming up. So what we have to do is this division itself, we really don't want it to display. We only wanted to display this division only and only if there is something in the search text. So we are going to put the same condition in this division as well. This was one part. Second part is if we click on any of this account, it should, if we select any account, it should display the details like this: the icon, the name of the account which we have selected, and then the button, the icon for closing the icon, closing the selection. Okay, so how we will get this part? For this, we are first going to say SLDS lookup. We are going to use this SLDS lookup, and in this CSS, we really are going to use this part. This part you see here, this is basically something we want, where the account is selected, there is a close icon, the icon is there. So this is what we wanted to take as part of our CSS. Okay, it's our HTML. So let's click on this copy, and we're going to say formatter, like free formatter HTML file. To format it, basically all we are trying to do is we're trying to format this. Okay, once we copy it, get back to an HTML file, and here on the top, I'm going to put a comment here. I'll say display the selected record information, so that I know where the selected record information is basically. And then we'll paste the HTML file that we have just copied, and we are going to get rid of few things. And what are those few things? I'll quickly walk you through. But before that, let's quickly make sure that we are putting this comment that here our display select record gets ended. Okay. Now what we really need to get rid of, and which part we really need? We only need this part. Okay, this part where the account is selected, and we are able to see that this is where account, this is salesforce.com account is selected. And the rest of the division, the bottom division part, we don't need, because this is the division which is responsible for displaying the record. So what is that? That is the division we're talking about, which is this, which is containing the list of records and displaying the information. So we really need to get rid of this division, that is this one. And this is the only part for displaying the selected record information. Now let's go ahead and deploy this. We are not making it dynamically for now, but we'll definitely make it. Let's refresh this. Okay, we don't see this part coming up. We got the error. It says duplicate ID detected. Okay, so let's make it as 32, because the ID of our HTML element should be same or not same. It should be different. Okay. Yeah, so now let's refresh this page and you would see that there is going to be a selected record with no icon because we know the reason why the icon is not getting displayed there. But now what we exactly wanted to do is, if we select the account, that account, like this particular part, the text area, the list and everything should get hidden, and this part should pop up with the button, with the closing button here on the top right. Okay, sorry, yeah, top right itself. So first of all, let's talk about the icons. So we know that we need to prepend something, that is Apex Pages, SLDS and latest, to display the icons. And now we've got it, we prepended it here. Okay. Now we really need to work with the selection part. So let's quickly also add a comment here, so that even when you leave and someone joins your team, that person can easily get to know what is there for which part. So we can say display the list of records. And you can put it, and you need to know which is your division, this one. So you can put it and here. Yeah, so we talked about this particular piece. This li part is basically used for displaying the text, whatever user has searched. And this is the piece where we are displaying the record one by one. And we want, whenever the user clicks on any account name, like if user clicks on any of the row, anywhere user clicks on this row, you want that row to be selected. Similarly, like this, if you are clicking on anywhere in the row, that user, that account is getting selected. Okay. So we are going to add another action listener here, which we are going to say on click, because we're clicking, the user is clicking on that. So we'll say handle item clicked. Okay. And we also need to know which particular item has been clicked. So we are going to use a data elements. We'll say data hyphen record hyphen ID, and that going to contains the account ID. These are the two changes that we need to do on the front side on the HTML side. And on the JavaScript side, we need to define this method. So for any questions, anyone? I don't see anything. Are we good? Confused? Okay, I really don't hear back, so I'll take the silence as no. So we know that as this is the iteration here, li is the iteration part, and each li is going to have this on click button. So, and we have this data attribute that says record ID, like data hyphen record ID. So with the help of data set, we have got the record ID and stored into the variable called record ID. And now we need to know which record has been selected. So for that, what we will do is we are going to use the find method in our array, in our record which are getting displayed into the UI. So our record that are getting displayed into the UI is data. This particular variable data is getting displayed in the UI, if you see here. So we are going to use the find method on the data. So we'll say this.data.find. It's going to contain like item within the callback function. What this find method does is it actually returns the item that is find based on the condition you provide. So we are going to provide a condition. We'll say return item.id equal to the selected record ID, whatever the record has been selected. So if the item is selected, we wanted to return that, and it's going to give us the single record. And where we wanted to store the information, which we have got as a selected record. We'll say this dot selected record equal to the outcome of our find method. And as this is a selected record, we are going to create another variable here, add a local variable at a class label as selected record. Now what we will do is we are going to come up here in our HTML file into this division. We will say, because we want this particular part to be displayed only and only when the user has selected the record. So we will put a condition, we'll say if true, selected record. That means there is some value into the selected record object. Then display the name of your account which has been selected. That is how you will display is you'll set this selected record dot name, because name is the field of your account that you want it to display. Okay. And you don't want, yeah, first let's deploy this and see what happens. Are we able to make it or not? Okay, so we are able to deploy the code. Let's refresh this page. And this time we should only see the search icon and the search outcome that we clearly see here. And now here, if we type SFDC, you see SFDC Panther is there. If I click on any of that record, I see this particular piece is coming up with the account and the close icon as well. Okay. And if I type here, let's say India, and select India Salesforce.com India Private Limited, I see that is getting populated. But what I don't see is that is not working for us is this piece of code should be, this piece of code should be getting hidden. It should not be visible. This piece only should be visible. So for that, we are going to put the condition here into the other division tag form element. We will say if false. That means if there is no record, though no value in the selected record variable, then only display that piece of the complete piece of the search record and this list, whatever you have. Okay. So you can just refresh this page. Now you see that there is a search icon, and if you search for India, you see there are records. If you select any, now you see that only the selected part is coming up. The other part is not getting displayed. Now on the click of this button, it should actually display the other part. That is how here it is, right? Currently we are in this portion. If you click on this button, it is displaying the other part. And that's what we wanted to achieve. So this is the button that is there within the selected portion of our component. This is the button with the icon. So on the button, you have to put an event, say on click, and you can say handle close, or yeah, handle close selected record. And this is the place, or any place you could just define the method. And what you need to do is, all you need to do is you need to hide this piece of code and display this piece of code. So how you will do is, we are going to set the value. We are going to say this dot selected record equal to undefined. So as soon as you set this value to undefined, this the upper condition is going to be false, the lower condition is going to be true, and the records and the toggle is going to be so much like it's going to be so quick that even you won't able to know that, okay, this has been, okay, there was a switch or something. Okay. Now if I just say India, and if you click select, you see here, and if you click on this, you see that India is there, and the records are there. Now if you search for SFDC, you select it, you got SFDC Panther, and every single thing is working perfectly fine for us without any issue. Okay. So far everyone is clear? Any issues, any confusion? This looks like so many things, but once you develop it, you will get to know, because that's why I try to make it simple, step by step. Like first, this is what we need to do. Second, this is what we need to do. Third, this is what we need to do. So once you develop it, once you practice it by your own, you will say that this is really easy. Not even this, all other things are definitely going to be easy. But yeah, the SLDS part definitely have to, I think you need to think which CSS you need to pick up and all those. Any other question?
I mean, there is one attribute you're using like data hyphen some ID, right? So why are you using that attribute? Can you please let me know?
Did you miss any of the session
Can
since
you
starting?
open
Yeah,
open
I
the
know what,
HTML?
I know
Uh,
what's your question, but did you missed
yeah,
any of the session?
I missed couple of lectures. Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically, that's why. So
Yes,
this,
yes.
these are the data attributes. Okay, these are the data attributes we say. So
Mhm.
anything that we wanted to access within our HTML file, not HTML, within our JavaScript file, we usually use data attributes. So data hyphen is the I'll say something which is a keyword that we really need to use. And this is your variable. You could use anything, ID, record name, index. You could just use anything. But if you're using like record hyphen ID, then it is something like record ID where I is in caps whenever you're accessing in JavaScript. So if I have some two variables, as I say data record ID and data ID like this, and I wanted to access these two whenever someone clicks on this LI, this is my on click. I wanted to access these two attributes. And how would we'll access this with the help of data set. So anything that is there, data hyphen asterisk is data set basically in JavaScript. And then this is your variable. So what was your variable? You said record hyphen ID. That means it's going to look like something record ID. And the other one was ID. So that is going to be only ID. So this, whatever the hyphen, the kebab case was there, it is going to be converted into the normal case that we keep using. So it's going to be record ID. And as we are binding whatever this is, whatever the account ID coming up for each row, we are easily able to get the record ID, the account ID basically, because we need to filter out, we need to find out which row has been clicked here. If I search for SF and we say which row has been clicked, we really need to figure out which row has been clicked, what was the ID, so that we can display that particular selected record. Otherwise, we would not be able to see, we would not be able to know which record has been clicked. So that's why we've got this ID, because this is a unique element across all the elements, across all the records. And then we are using this array method for finding the relevant record which has been clicked. Is it clear?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was the things. Now there definitely you're not going to, this is just for account, right? Later on, let's say you go to some other object called case and you try to see, there is now contact. You see the icon is there, name is something. There are two different lookups. So you could not, like, you cannot go ahead and say, okay, now I've got for account, I need to go for and create for account contact and that kind of things. You could not go ahead and keep creating the lookup component. So that is where something comes called reusability. And that's why I keep talking about try to break down your components into multiple pieces. So now you could just extend this component to make it more reusable. How you will make it? Now you would see there are a few things like this related to. This is something we have made it as a static here. So we are going to now accept. So we are going to create some public properties here. And we are going to accept some variables, okay? So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we are going to create API that is going to hold the label, okay? For example, parent account. These are going to be the default values. Then we are going to take object API name, okay? I'll say object API name. By default, it's going to be account. These are the two things that we really need to know: which object we wanted to search, what is the label we wanted to display. So now instead of using the static value here, we are going to put our dynamic value so that we will be able to pass any value we would be able to use for any object. Okay, this is the one thing that we have as part of static. Next thing that we have static is the icon, because if we come back here and see the example for case, you can see here that if I look up on the contact, I see the icon is completely different. That is for contact. Okay, so you definitely wanted to have the icon there. So how you wanted to display the icon dynamically, especially on the icons that are coming up here in the list and the one that is coming here for selected record. So as we talked about the icons here, this is the one icon that we have. Okay, let me quickly first copy it and put into the JavaScript. I'm definitely going to create one variable and I'll say icon name. By default, it's going to be standard. Okay, call an account. And we're going to create one more variable and we'll say this is going to be our standard. We'll say icon URL and put it whatever we have. So if you remember, we talked about the icon. This is our category and this is the name of our icon. Okay, so this is 1 and this is 2. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, put curly braces and put 1 for 0 for category and 1 for the icon that I wanted to display. And then now this is something which needs to be dynamic for us, because this has to be replaced with the standard and this has to be replaced with the count. So we know category colon icon name. So this colon is basically our separator, that before colon whatever we are going to have is going to be category, and after colon whatever is going to be the icon name. So within the connected callback, what we will do is we'll use if condition and we will say if this dot icon name, then we are going to create variables, maybe icons equal to this dot icon name dot split. So what we are doing is we are splitting the string from this colon, and this is going to give us the array of size 2, because it is going to be 0 and 1. And then what we will do is we'll say, okay, this dot icon name icon URL dot replace. What we wanted to replace is we wanted to replace this 0 with whatever is there within icon 0 at 0 place. And similarly, we are going to replace 1 with 1. So this way, whatever we are having, it is going to make it as dynamic. I think this has to be like this. So let's do this. Okay. So now what we had is we've got, okay, whatever the user is passing as an icon name. Now as a developer, you would know that for which icon, like for example, it is for contact. So you would say it's going to be standard colon contact. Maybe for case, you would say it is going to be standard colon case. So you will know that which particular icon you wanted to pass it to this lookup component to work as or to function as expected. Now we've just made the changes, and if you remember, we have used contact instead of account. Okay, and if I search for India, it is still coming as account because we have not dynamically binded it. So now let's use this icon URL, and wherever this the account one is being used, we are going to bind that. So within the LI, we are definitely going to bind it. It's going to reflect on all the records. We also need to bind this within our selected record as well, wherever we are able to see that information, basically wherever we are displaying that icon as well. Now, if we refresh this page and you search for India, you could see it is not displaying contact. no matter even if you're searching for account and label is coming as parent account. So whatever the icon you can just use based on your the SLDS icon. We talked about the category and the icon name, and this is how you would be using. Okay. One thing that you might have seen is here it is using account. So we are going to use the object API name dynamically. And similarly, maybe here itself, it says right. This is the basically this particular information is something that is coming up here, which says which object it is getting displayed. Okay. So what we will do is we will accept one more parameter and we'll say object label. And I'm going to say account. And this object label, we are going to use it over here so that we can display whatever the label is getting, basically whatever the account we are displaying. We cannot display object API name because if it is a custom object, it will say account, maybe let's say payment __ C. So we don't want to see that. We don't want to let our user to see that experience, and that's going to be a very bad UI experience. So if you see here, now we've got account. If you select, we see account is there, close it, and you got whatever you want. That's the one piece. We made it dynamically, only the icons and the other part. But the object API name is still there. It is still querying on this account object. It's not querying on the object that we really want. Okay. So to make it more dynamic, we are going to accept a parameter called string object API name. Now we are going to prepare the query. So we will say string query string. So select is always going to be there. And we know that every object is always going to have ID field. Definitely. We're going to put comma. Okay. Let's say name. We are going to have from. Now, which object we wanted to query? That is object API name. Okay. Then we are going to have, we'll say where. The complete query that we have here. And we are going to also put limit, let's say 10 records. And instead of returning this static query, we will return now database.query. That's going to accept our query string. So now what we did is we basically made this piece of code as dynamic as well. Okay. This piece of code is also now dynamic. Now, if I get back to my lookup component and instead of object, one piece that we're missing is we need to pass this value from JavaScript to Apex to make it dynamic. So in our method, which is handle change records, we are going to accept one more parameter, and this is going to send the value of our JavaScript variable called obj API name. And now if I change my obj API name from account to contact, you will see that the information that is being fetched from Apex is of contact object. Okay, let's refresh this now. Okay, so if I type, now you see, these are basically my contacts. We have not changed the icons, but we are able to see. Now let's do one more thing. Change the contact to case. Okay, I'm going to change this. Like I'm going to change everything to the case now. Okay, the icon is for case, the object name is case, label is also, value is also. So every single thing is changed now. You will see the changed information. It says parent case, and if you type something, it's not even giving us anything. We're not giving us anything. We're not able to see anything. And the reason is that because there is no name field, on the case object. This object has something called case number. You see here, or something called subject, right? So you really have to now make it dynamic, because you cannot keep this name field as hard coded where you say, okay, I only want to search on, like I wanted to hard code my lookup component to query the name only. What if later on you wanted to use case, you wanted to use work orders, you wanted to use some other like solutions or knowledge articles, though it does not have the name fields, right? To further enhance it, we will take one more variable from the user. We will say field to search. Okay. And let's say we are going to search on the subject field of case object. And we need to pass the same information to Apex as well. So we'll say field to search, this dot field to search, and the same information, the same variable, we are going to keep it in our Apex class as well, field to search. Now here, instead of this name field, we are going to dynamically bind this now. We'll say select ID, select this field to search from object API num, where now this is also going to be dynamic, where field to search like. So how it is going to look like is, it's going to look like select ID subject from case, where subject like whatever the subject you are passing it here. So it's going to be making it a dynamic query for any object. Now you're sending the keyword, you're sending the object API name, you're sending the field that on top of which field you wanted to search. Okay. Now let's come back here into a JavaScript and have a console log. Okay. Console.log and this .data, we are going to put the console here, and there is a reason behind this. I wanted to showcase. So we have got, okay, it says mechanical is there in the subject. So let's refresh this page. And if I search for MEC, you could see here, right? I got the case is coming up there, case icon is coming up there, but the value of case subject is not coming up. If I select any case, I see the case is selected. If I close, I see the again, but if I go to the console, or if you go to the console, we could see that there is something called ID and there is something called subject. We able to see the information in the console, but not in the UI. Any reason anyone can think of what is the reason that, what is the mistake that we have made? Or not exactly the mistake, I would say. I would say it's an enhancement that we need to make.
Case number field is missing in the select query.
But we're not displaying, that doesn't matter, right? We have subject, we wanted to display subject here. Let's say we don't want it to display case number, we wanted to display subject.
In HTML file, we use, I believe.
We are accepting HTML dot name, right?
Yes.
Exactly. This is basically, this is where we are having the issue. We're displaying the name here, right? But we cannot dynamically display something like this. This is something not supported in Salesforce. So you could not say selected record.field to search. It will not work at all. Okay. So what we are going to do here now, we know that this is the subject field, right? We have got this array. So let's say you have a variable here that is field to search. Okay. That has got subject. And you have an object, this one. Let me take this. Okay, sorry. And let's say you got let case record. And this is the object. Now from this object, you want to get the subject. And this subject could be anything, like it could be subject name, case number, could be anything later on. So how you will access that variable? Dynamically.
This record dot within brackets one. position.
Okay, if I say case record,
Within
oops.
bracket.
Okay, I can say case record and you say, okay, within bracket.
You see position like the axis like arrow of 0 or something.
You want 0 or 1? But that is for array, right? This is an
Yeah,
object.
yes, yes.
So what you have is you have this field itself. If you provide this field here dynamically, you will see the subject is coming as it is. So now if I say case record dot name equal to, so basically what I'm doing is I'm adding a new attribute into the case record itself with the name. So this is a name. I can use this name into my HTML, and then as we have the field to search, we would be able to easily use it. Right? Any confusion here? And then what we will do here now, here within this itself, where the data is coming from Salesforce to Lightning Web Component, we are going to use a for each here. Okay. Within the for each, and we are going to say cloned data dot for each, and we are going to say item. And here what we will say is we'll say, okay, item dot name equal to item and whatever we have within the field to search. Okay, so this is going to be our static field that we will use here as a name to display the information. Okay, and we are assigning the value dynamically based on whatever the field we are getting here from the user as an input, which field we wanted to search. Okay, and now we can go ahead and deploy this. Once we deploy this, you would clearly see now the things are coming and we would be able to see the information being populated now. If I search for MEC, you could see here now we got the case subject is coming up. We got, and if you select it, the case subject is coming here as well. Later on, if you want to change this to subject, like instead of subject, you wanted to change this to case number. Oh, sorry, wrong command. Yeah, if you wanted to change it to subject, you could change, sorry, case number. All you need to do is just change the value here for the field to search, and it's going to work perfectly fine without any further changes. Now, case number starts with 00. So if you search for, let's say 000 maybe something, you would see the case number coming up, and whatever you select, the same case number you're going to see here. So that is basically your dynamic for field as well. Now everything is working fine. Okay. Now, next thing that we need to do is, because this particular lookup component will be used within the parent component. For example, consider this particular whole component as your parent component, and within the parent component, you are having these two lookup fields. Okay. This one is for account, contact. This one is for account. But your component is same. This is for contact and this is for account. How? Let's quickly go ahead and create a LWC component, and we'll say lookup demo. Okay. And we are going to quickly make this available to the Lightning App Builder. And within our HTML component, let's quickly have a Lightning card here. And we'll say lookup demo. Okay. And within Lightning card, as usual, we are not going to have the footer. And within the body, we are going to call our component. So we are going to call the component that is called C-lookup. Okay. And what it takes now, it takes label. Okay. So let's say I'm going to say label equal to contact name. Then it takes OBJ API name. So OBJ API name is going to be contact. Now it has to be in the kebab case. So need to make sure that you're breaking down with the hyphen. Then you've got icon name. So it's going to be standard 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 colon contact. Then object label is going to be contact. Okay. And then there is one more field called field to search. This is going to be name. This is for contact. Now let's say I add one more here. We are going to say account name. Object API name is account and icon is account as well. Rest all is fine. Okay. So let's deploy this. This basically your lookup component will be used within the parent component. In 100% of the cases, you are going to use that. So that is what we have here. Now let's quickly go ahead and refresh this page. Okay, and you could just say, okay, this is what we've got, and then go to the parent. Sorry, we really have to add our component here. So we're going to edit the page and add the component. So lookup demo is our component. So now there you might notice here, right? There are a couple of weird things that you see. First of all, you see the SLDS icons are coming up. So in our lookup component, we have used this card. We really don't need it. Why we used earlier? Just to see into the basically solid background, but we really don't need it. Your lookup component is really going to be there within the parent component that is going to take care of the background things. So after removing that, now you see here, you have got the lookup component, which really looks cool. And if you now search for, let's say, Amit, you could see here, we've got Amit. And if I search for India, I would see the accounts are coming up here and I can select that. Okay. Because both the components are being used here, I need to know for which particular parent I have selected this particular information. For example, for contact name, it is going to be contact ID behind the scene. For account name, it is account ID behind the scene on the case object. So one more field we need to accept within our lookup component is @API, and we will say parent ID field. By default, I'm going to say contact, or maybe parent ID. Okay. And then you need to deploy this. And while calling, you need to pass the parent ID as well here. Parent ID field here. For this, it is going to be like for contact, it's going to be contact ID. And for account, it's going to be account ID. And you could have like say, it should be like this in the kebab case. Okay, this is what you have got here. Now, because you're selecting the information here, your parent component does not know what is the information the user has selected. So whenever you are selecting any record on the select, okay, so where this is your record, you're selecting, you need to fire an event to the parent component and tell that, okay, you have selected this record. Okay, so what you have to do is you need to fire an event. It could be, let's say, selected event, or selected event. Event name could be, let's say, lookup. Now, what all information we wanted to pass is a record ID which user has selected, and that you will get it from this .selected record.id. Then parent ID field, definitely you wanted to send, like for which lookup the user has selected the parent ID. then maybe you could send the complete selected record, whatever user has selected. And is there anything else that you wanted to send? Yeah, this is it, what you wanted to send whenever user is selected. Okay. And one more thing that you need to send, you need to take care is whenever user is removing the selected record, you also need to tell the user that, okay, for this particular lookup field, the user has removed the record now. For that case, this is our close button. You need to fire the same event, but the record ID is going to be undefined. The selected record is going to be undefined. So that way you are tackling on the same case. You say, okay, there is a lookup. If you just select something, we are passing that, we are firing that event on lookup. That is going to pass the selected information. And if someone removes, that is also going to pass the selected information. And in your component, you have to say on lookup. And then just say handle lookup. And you could use the same method for both. And this handle lookup is going to be here with one parameter. I'm just naming it as event. And you could just say let detail equal to event.detail. And we are going to have console.log json.stringify detail. So this is basically the complete lookup that we have developed. It is reusable. It is sending the information to the parent component for both, if the user has selected any record or not. So let's say if we select, we got this information here. It clearly says, okay, what is the record ID? What was the parent field? What is the selected record? The complete information. And if I search for account, it is going to give me, okay, for the account lookup, this is the information that user has selected. So that is the complete lookup, that the lookup component that you can create. Now it is a reusable component. You can use it for any object anywhere, LWC, like in any component. Okay. So there is a question, can we have a condition to manipulate the object only when the field to select value is not equal to name? Yes, you could have that condition. You could definitely have that. You could manipulate the lookup component based on your need. If you, whatever the need that you want, you could definitely have that. Any questions so far, anyone? I know this information is a really too much to digest, but that is it. You definitely have to work on this.